Hello, welcome back to OConnor Racing. Today what we're going to do is finish assembling this Polaris Edge 800cc. This is part 2. We've got the cylinders on and put the power valves in. Got the nuts on the base of the cylinder, not tightened yet. The next thing I'm going to do is we're going to check the cylinder head and make sure that it's flat. Right, the way we do this, I've just got a straight edge here and a set of feeler gauges, and what we do is we just make sure that we don't have any warpage in this head. This checks out fine. We're going to go ahead and install it. I'm ready at this point to install the cylinder head, and what I did is I put the O-rings on the head gasket, and I used Loctite 242, blue Loctite is what it is, and that's how I'm going to seal the bolts. I'm not going to put it on the bolts. What I do is I like to put it inside of the holes. I think if I put it on the bolt, I'm running a risk of getting that Permatex on the top of the cylinder head. So what I'm going to do is get this head lined up, get it on, and put these bolts in. Got all my head bolts in. The next thing I'm going to do is just apply a really thin coat of sealer underneath the heads of these bolts. This is the torque sequence for the cylinder head at 18 to 22 foot-pounds, and this is the torque sequence for the cylinders at 30 to 34. And this is a torque sequence for the cases of the block. 3 different torques there depending on the bolt size. 6mm 108 inch-pounds, 8mm 20 to 24 foot-pounds, and 10mm 36 to 42 foot-pounds. I've got my head torqued. Next thing I'm going to do is get these cylinders torqued down. We're finished tightening up all the cylinder base nuts, and I get asked this question a lot. I'll let you in on a secret. I always talk about torque. You really can't get a torque wrench in here or here or here or here. So we came up with this. A couple little just tools that we made. It's about 1.5 inches long from center to center, and all this is, it was a 14mm wrench, and then I just took a socket with a 3/8 drive on the end of it, and we welded it to it. One thing you have to keep in mind, that does increase leverage. So our closest calculations, it's approximately 10%. It increases it by 10%. So at 34 foot-pounds, just back it off 4 foot-pounds, and it's going to equal the required torque of 34. I went ahead and installed a new crankshaft seal and water pump seal. Put the housing back all together. Everything in here looks pretty good, and I'm going to start assembling this side next. I went ahead and applied case bond to the back side of this cover and the block. I always like to put that on both surfaces, and I just use an acid brush. These things, I use a lot of these. They seem to work really well, and it's just a thin coat. You don't have to goop this stuff on there. I checked my seal. My seal looks good. Seal came pre-oil greased from the factory. 4 bolts here. Got these torqued down. Water pump seal's already been installed. The next thing I want to do here is I'm gonna lap the flywheel. I'm gonna use a little bit of lapping compound, and I'm gonna lap the flywheel against the crank before I do anything else. This is just some Clover Compound, they call it, Felpro, and it's just a little, well, it's like a liquid sandpaper. All I'm going to do is put a little bit inside of here. And bring it into the crankshaft. I'm just going to slowly work this back and forth. And what that's going to do, that's going to ensure I get a really good seal. So you can see it's already starting to turn the crank over. I'll just do this for a couple of minutes just to get everything mated together nice. finished lapping the flywheel, and what I'm looking for is just a very consistent gray color on the crankshaft and inside of the flywheel. Put the key in and mounted my stator plate with 3 mounting screws, being careful to match these lines up again, and put my grommet in on this side, pulling the wires out, making sure nothing's going to make contact with the flywheel. I've installed my flywheel, tightened the nut down to 90 foot-pounds, installed my sprocket to drive my water pump and my oil pump, and we're going to go ahead and clean the threads on these bolts and once again apply Loctite to them and do the final assembly. Okay, finished with the installation of the cover. Next thing we're going to do is put the oil pump in. What's important here, a lot of stuff's pretty obvious, but nothing's obvious, I guess. This is the drive for the oil pump. You want to make sure this is aligned with the notch in the shaft, and then just go ahead and tighten it up. Once again, I'm going to use Loctite on these bolts. Right, I went ahead, oil pump's connected, and routed the oil feed line to the main bearings. Put my clips on it. My clamps all set, and I'm done with this motor. We're just going to tape it up and plug it off and call Uncle Frank to come and get it. Thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of it. I enjoy doing this stuff. If you guys ever have questions, feel free, give me a call. We do this kind of work here every day. If you're not comfortable doing something like this, definitely give me a call and we can take care of you. Thanks for watching. KenO'ConnorRacing.com.